Welcome to issue 128 of Critical Encounters, a podcast about Marvel Champions, a living card game by Fantasy Flight Games. Here, we take a good look at that most critical piece of the game, the encounter sets. We'll discuss those poorly understood characters, unfairly labeled villains, and their various plans to shape humanity and benefit the planet, as well as those so-called heroes intent on thwarting them. I'm one of your hosts, Michael, and joining me today is Steve.
Hi, Michael.
And Mike.
Hi, Michael. This isn't going to get confusing at all.
So, folks can hear that voice. That is Mr. Michael Boggs, former designer and FFG employee. Michael, how are you doing? Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm great. Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, we're real excited to have you on again. Our listeners of the show will realize it was 25 issues ago since you were on, and we talked all about the Hood Pack. And, yeah, so today we can talk a little bit about Sinister Motives and where you're at, both, I guess, figuratively and literally. I think everybody knows who Michael Boggs is, right? We don't have to do some basic intros here, but
pick up half your products or all your products. He's credited on there.
Yeah. You don't work on Marvel Champions anymore, do you?
I do not. No, I ended up leaving the Marvel Champions team and Fantasy Flight Games back right at the beginning of May, I think.
Well, that's a blow to all us fans because your stuff has been great.
Well,
I think that the Sinister Motives box, that is the one that's out now, is just like got rave reviews. I love it. It's great.
Yeah.
Good job.
Oh, appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it was really well received. And you know what? This is probably the first time we've had a designer on right after a product. So we're not we're not looking for tidbits for the next thing. We actually get to talk about the last thing.
Yeah. Why don't we talk a little bit about the box, and then we can maybe go into just some other stuff. But I think you have said before that like maybe Spider-Man and Venom and those sort of things have been were your favorite comics. Was that the inspiration behind this box? I mean, tell us about that.
Yeah, it definitely was. So this box kind of came about. So when we were first envisioning how we would develop products, we decided that we were going to do things in these large kind of groupings, these large waves, which I believe Caleb has mentioned on maybe this podcast or other podcasts before. And our first big wave that we talked about was the Thanos and Infinity Stones kind of set. So we had like the Rise of Red Skull, then we had Galaxy's Most Wanted, and then we had the Mad Titan Shadow box. And then after that, the plan was to potentially at that time move on to X-Men, which Fantasy Flight announced recently. But as things were being developed, we kind of got to this point where we felt like we needed to just wait a little bit longer on the X-Men. We needed some sort of like a gap thing, almost like a kind of like a period to cool off and do something a little bit different, spin a little bit different way. And Sinister Motives sort of came out of that. And we wanted to choose characters and have like a story that still resonated with the players and people were still really excited about, but wasn't really confined to the same ideals of having like these, products developed in groupings that, kind of have something that let us like step away from all of that. And that's really where Sinister Motives was sort of where it came from. So
it's like a palate cleanser in between the main courses.
Yeah, that's kind of a good way to put it. So yeah, we ended up just going with I think the original decision was to go with Miles Morales and Gwen Stacy, because they're such exciting characters. And we did. I think part of the discussion back then, from what I remember, was like, when are we going to have another time to really do them? Like they fit so well with the characters we'd done up to that point. We already had Spider-Man, we had Spider-Woman, we had Miss Marvel with the Champions characters. It felt like it was sort of a now or never type thing, or now or years and years from now type thing. So it was just sort of the best option at that time. And once we kind of chose the heroes we wanted to do, obviously the villains kind of just sort of came along with that, and we tried to pick the iconic characters and just craft a whole spider experience.
Yeah, I think that was a great call. Everybody I've heard really, really likes the Sinister Motives. Yeah, I think it's been a great sort of standalone wave. I mean, I've been having a great time with all the villains and the heroes. I shouldn't say I like the heroes, but
well, they come with encounter sets now, so you can like them.
Yes.
Oh boy, do we love that! Wow.
Yeah, whose idea was that?
I don't actually remember, to be honest. I think it was I don't really know. I don't know where that came about. Maybe it was Caleb's idea. I'm not sure. It just was one of those things that sort of like cropped up, and we were both like, "Yeah, that's awesome. Let's do it." And I wish it was something we honestly implemented earlier. Like I as a player, I love having the extra aspect cards in the back, more deck building and stuff, but just the variety that comes from each and every set, you can, put in pretty much every single scenario. Like it's really invaluable to a point. So I think that's something that players can expect to see quite frequently going forward. It's an idea that has a lot of potential.
Yeah, I like the potential there for like kind of the oddball villains, or the like we got Armadillo. I didn't know who that was. I never heard of Armadillo before, and
oh my gosh, we might get the Spot. We might
right.
actually get the Spot.
Paste Pot Pete, those kind of guys.
There you
maybe maybe not the really crazy ones, but it's neat because you don't have to tie them to too strong of a theme to the box, right? It wouldn't make sense necessarily to have Armadillo in the Mad Titan Shadow stuff, but here you can just put it in the back of a pack and it works great.
So, yeah. That was the thing we were excited about. Like if we can tie it to the character who's packing in, we tried to do that, but sometimes it was just sort of like, this is a fun encounter set, let's throw it in there. And yeah, there's a lot of characters we can get in that normally wouldn't fit anywhere else.
Yeah, we just got to spoil a card from the Inheritor set, which is all against the spider stuff, so it fits in really nice on this wave. And it's just looks like a mean scenario, so we're really
that one's
playing it.
That one's brutal. That one's real mean.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. So this box came out now. If I got my timeline correctly, I mean, you guys work with Marvel, but you're not privy to everything that Marvel does. You guys conceived of this idea before Into the Spider-Verse, am I right?
No. I think Into the Spider-Verse had either come out by that time or was about to.
Okay, so
and that was, somewhat of an influence, but not completely. It was also like, kind of like I mentioned with, if we weren't going to do the Spider People now, then it was going to be a long time before we got to them. So it just, but we've had a couple instances where things just sort of lined up with Marvel in weird ways. Like, we picked She-Hulk for the core set, and then her show's been announced. I don't think it's come out yet, has it? But Miss Marvel's the same. Like, there's been a lot of like really weird just coincidences that have sort of been lucky for the game.
I mean, coincidences, but it sounds like both companies are moving in the same direction. You're trying to be inclusive. You're trying, it has not passed me by that half your heroes are female.
Sure, yeah, that has been intentional, and I think you're right. Disney and Marvel have been absolutely doing the same thing.
Yeah, and you both picked really awesome heroes, so you can edit that out. Villa doesn't need to say that.
Right. Yeah.
Well, okay. Speaking of villains, I mean, when this box was first first announced, Spider-Man is kind of like the Batman of the Marvel universe, in that there's so many villains.
Yeah,
so many. So I laughed when I saw your fourth scenario. Like, how do you shove all these villains into a box with 5 scenarios? Oh, you have one with 6. What was the impetus for the ambush? What was the thought process behind that? Was it literally just, let's get Doc Ock and Electro and all these people in the same room together, or because it's such a unique scenario? What was your thought process behind that one?
Sure. So that really was the problem that we ran into, just having almost too many villains to choose from. And, Doc Ock, of course, had to be in the box. I've seen a lot of players say that they wanted him to have his own scenario, and I did too. I love Doc Ock. But as we were sort of creating things and envisioning the 5 scenarios as a whole, it, became apparent that, like, we could just do Doc Ock, but there were so many others, the Vulture and Electro and Kraven, and like so many great strong characters, and to be able to like create a scenario around the Sinister Six would be a totally different experience. That we've only seen, I think, up to that point. Is it the Wrecking Crew? Yeah, the Wrecking Crew is the only.
Yeah.
Oh, the Wrecking Crew, and then what's the one in
Tower
Shadow? Yeah, that one as well. So, but this originally, with the Sinister Six scenario was supposed to be a scenario that had no villains. All of the villains were just minions in the deck. So you just had a main scheme, and then you just had the side scheme, and that was it. And anything you drew out were just the minions coming to fight you, who were Doc Ock and Vulture and so on. We found that doesn't really work within the framework of the game. The game is so built around having a villain in play that when you don't, a lot of things start to break down. A lot of cards just cease to function. And so we kind of had to find a workaround to implementing villains, but making sure that they didn't feel as permanent as they were in other scenarios. The whole idea was that they're kind of coming at you from every side, and you don't know who's going to pop out. You can beat them up easily and continue on your way, but they're just going to pop back out again. So that's really sort of where it all came from, wanting to have so many characters in the box, but also wanting to have a scenario that sort of captured that idea of just this, this swarm of villains just attacking again and again and again.
I think you captured that too. I've played enough games where we've got them. We're maybe a 3-player game. There's only one villain out, and then the next turn there's 4 villains out. Like, where did they all come from? What just happened? I thought we were doing well. And that's fun with the whole you need to escape mechanic as well, being something different than the typical scenario. Probably my favorite of the multi-villain scenarios too. I think.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I think I really like the Wrecking Crew, like the shtick that was going on there, but sometimes it just didn't work right or feel. Sure. That was really early in the game, but I think this one you guys really nailed it.
We had a lot of feedback from the Wrecking Crew. I think that helped a lot.
Yeah, it shows that you guys, that's great that you guys listen to the feedback and take that into account. So, do you have a favorite scenario out of the box?
For me, it is either Mysterio or Venom. I think if I had to choose, Venom is my favorite villain, but I think if I had to choose, Mysterio is probably my favorite to play against. I've had so many games where first 3 or 4 rounds, I'm just cruising, not a big deal, whatever. Oh, he put a card in my deck, that's fine, I got time, that's fine, I got time. And then just bam, here's 5 encounter cards out of your deck.
Yeah.
And it's just right, and all of a sudden the board's set up, and here's the side scheme, and here's a minion. And he's just the thing that I love about him is, and what I was really trying to capture in the design was this idea of this sense of impending dread. You know that he's messing with you. You know that he's created these illusions that this stuff isn't real, but you got to go through it. You got to deal with it no matter what. That is Mysterio to me. He's always got Spider-Man in some sort of trap and some sort of thing that Spider-Man has to break through mentally and sometimes physically. And that was the idea here, is that it's just this seed planted in the back of your mind that's eventually going to sort of come to fruition, and you either have to beat him before that happens or deal with the consequences, essentially.
Yeah, I think you hit that too, man. Seeing that encounter card moving up in your deck, or the 3 encounter cards moving up in your deck, closer and closer to the top. It's no, I don't want to draw cards, but I want to draw cards, but I don't want to draw cards. Yeah, and it has some of the most frustrating cards in it, discard your hand and draw a new hand. It's really not that bad, but I had my whole turn planned, and you just wrecked it. Yeah. Oh, so good.
And now you have 6 encounter cards in front of you too.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I appreciate that scenario because it completely throws the game's pacing on its head. Because if you're really power gaming this through, you go through your deck, try to get set up. If you're not, to your second pass, you get all your toys on the table, and it just, like you said, you're cruising at the top, and then you slow down. You purposely have to slow down because otherwise you're gonna get swarmed.
Yeah.
I just love what that does.
Thank you.
So in this wave, we're gonna talk heroes. Ugh, okay. Spider-Gwen, Miles Morales, and then the hero packs that come with it. Do you have a hero pack that you really liked, a hero that came with it, either maybe a favorite both thematically and mechanically, one of each? Or who did we get, or who are we getting? We have Nova, Ironheart. We're gonna see Penny Parker, SpiderHam, plus Miles and Gwen.
Yeah, I think out of those 6, I think my favorite ended up being, so out of those 6, I designed and developed Nova, Ironheart, Miles Morales, and Ghost Spider. Caleb had a bit of input on Miles Morales, but for the most part, like those were my designs. Then Caleb was sort of the mastermind behind SpiderHam, and then MJ Newman, she did Penny Parker. And out of the 6, I think the ones that I probably just love to play the most are Penny Parker or Ironheart. Ironheart for me was like a very challenging hero pack to create. Not because of the character or anything really mechanical, about the way she plays, but when we were doing the testing for her, like a lot of games, sometimes FFG doesn't release like their playtesting prototypes, but I've seen like Magic the Gathering and stuff do that. And if you've ever seen like a prototype card, they're usually really simple. It's just kind of like often a grid with very minimal graphic design, if any. You might have an icon or two, but a lot of times they're just stripped down pieces of paper. Like you want to make it printer friendly. You want to make sure you can rapidly iterate upon stuff, and you don't have all these like extra elements that you're dealing with, right? So Ironheart was designed and developed with our prototype templates. When it came time to put all of her text and abilities and everything in the final templates, the text and abilities on some of her main cards, on her hero cards, did not fit. Like we are allowed a little bit of wiggle room and like the size of the text and spacing and stuff, but even at the most minimum distances, it wouldn't fit. And that was totally on me. I just completely overlooked that, didn't even think to check. No, I've never run into that issue before with any other game. But because of her functionality, she just had just enough text to just go over the edge. And so it created this situation where like she had to be redesigned in a very short window. It was actually, we were on Christmas break. Technically, I had like a good chunk of December off, and I was working on her every single day. And most of the play testers were off on their holiday vacations with their families and whatnot. Most of FFG was off doing that. So like it was really just me designing, developing, and playtesting, designing, developing, and playtesting just over and over and over and over again by myself, because the changes that she had to go through were large enough to sort of create this situation where like it wasn't just like an easy tweak. Oh, I'll just swap this text with that. Like it was like a total re-envisioning in a way of what she was doing. So I think she turned out pretty well. I've heard a lot of people seem to like her, and I was really happy with where she ended up when I was testing her. And I think like it's a fond memory, but it was also a big learning experience. But I think it was ultimately for the better. I think she honestly ended up maybe in a better position than she was previously. So it all worked out for the best. And then after that, Penny Parker Spider is so fun to play. MJ Newman, she did a phenomenal job on Penny Parker. Probably one of the most unique heroes that we have in the game now, and I think Penny is gonna like blow people's mind. She's like super. Like at first, you read her cards and you see what she can do, and it's like, yeah, she's really that strong. And yes, she's really fun, really powerful, like all around great character, and her design is something that I would have never thought of, and I don't know if Caleb would ever thought of it. It's just totally innovative. It's totally something unique and new to the game. So I think both of those really stand out for me.
Well, it sounds like Ironheart was a Christmas miracle because everybody seems to like Ironheart. So good job, good job there.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
And then your wife said, "Okay, that's it. We're moving to Korea."
So sort of, yeah. That was like so I announced on Facebook when I was leaving FFG that my wife and I had been moving to China, trying to move to China since like the end of 2020. My wife actually moved to China then. Because she's Chinese, so the idea was that she would go ahead, spend some time with her family, and then I would come to China and live with her a few months later. I just needed my visa to process, and then I could never get my visa to go through. And so she's been in China since December 2020. I was trying to get over there for a long time. And so it was sort of like she left at the end of December. like the couple weeks before she left, I was just spending every single day designing and developing Ironheart just over and over and over. Any sort of work time that I had was dedicated to that. And then, sometimes she'd go to bed and I'm like, well, I need to work on this a little bit more. So it was a lot of work kind of compacted into a span of maybe like 2.5 weeks, but I think it worked out. And ultimately, we were able to do everything we needed to do for her to, leave and still spend time together and stuff. But I think it was, I don't know if she would be as fond of Ironheart as I am.
All right. Well, I want to give another shout out in this box. This is one of the modular sets, and I really like this one because it really shakes up the game somewhat. And this is the Down to Earth set. Absolutely adore this. This is the one with some criminals and volunteer work and things that just hit you the wrong way. So, for example, volunteer work, you cannot thwart unless you're an alter ego and you thwart with your recovery stat. Or loose ends, when you pull it, you have to search everywhere for your obligation and reveal it. Even if you've already dealt with it and removed it from the game, you get it back. What a great set. Was this you? Was this a group effort?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, the Down to Earth set was my design. It really came from seeing comments over and over from players about how they just wish there was more things that they could or should do in alter ego form. So, it was created to sort of just, make your alter ego feel more important to not only the mechanics, but also the actual story of what was happening in the scenario. So I'm very glad that you like it. That was one of my favorite sets to develop.
Yeah, and I think it really captures the theme. You're like, I got to punch Rhino, but my I don't know, my girlfriend's cat's in a tree or something like that. It's
yeah.
Yeah, and that darn cat will do damage to you.
Yeah, that cat. It's dangerous for sure.
Yeah. You said that I want to switch back. You said you're in Korea now, and you used to live there. Yeah. So the time zone's brutal here, but are you? I mean, maybe maybe it's too personal, but are you gonna do any game design while you're there? Are you? You had said you were a teacher, I think, before going into game design. Can we expect anything new from Michael Boggs in the gaming industry or from there? I don't even know. It's possible.
Yeah, I think so. So, like I mentioned, I was trying to go to China for a long time. Couldn't get in, couldn't get the visa to process. So after, talking with my wife and realizing that me getting into China wasn't going to happen anytime soon, we decided to move back to Korea. We met in Korea in 2013. We both lived here for quite a few years. I was here for almost 5 years. She was here for almost 6 years. And so, we love South Korea. It's a great place to live. And we just decided, it was a good plan B, essentially. So I'm here now. I got here about 2 months ago. And I recently started a new job as a teacher, which is what I was doing before. So, back in the classroom with kids and stuff. Which is a lot of fun, but I enjoy teaching. It's something that I'm kind of happy to be doing again after doing it or not doing it for so long. But I think I'm a game designer at heart, so I think I'll always be designing and developing stuff. And I'm kind of working on ideas now, so maybe we'll see something in the future if I can find the spare time to actually work on things between teaching and whatnot.
Nice. Oh, that's cool. Well, spare time. I asked a few of our other podcast friends. I let them know we were going to talk with you, and they wanted me to ask you, now that you have all this time, quote unquote, how many games of Netrunner have you played since you moved over
there? 0 so far, but I do have a friend who's still in Korea. Who he was the person who really got me into Netrunner. I played it maybe once or twice before meeting him, but it was really, he set up tournaments for this group and of friends that I had in Busan. He, for the longest time, I mean, this was back in 2013, and Netrunner was the first LCG that I bought. And at the time I was like, I don't want to spend $40 for a core set. That's way too much. Magic, you could buy a pack for $10 or, whatever it is. But And then we played it like, he let me borrow his cards and made decks, and there was a point I'm like, oh yeah, I'm definitely going to buy a core set. I need the core set. So, but he still got his whole collection, and we've talked a few times about playing. We just haven't got around to it, but I think we will soon.
All right. Mike, do you want to ask him the ridiculous?
Okay. All right. Okay, so we're gonna just clarify a couple of rules first. The right arrow symbol that appears on cards. If we are interpreting this correctly, whenever you have a block of text, an arrow, and then a block of text, you have to do all the stuff before the arrow to trigger all the stuff after the arrow.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And if there's multiple sentences after the arrow, you still have to trigger everything at the beginning to trigger any of those.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Infinity Gauntlet set, if you look at most of the stones, they have a special ability that says, do something villainous, then place this card in the discard pile. That's it. The Space Stone is a little different. It says special, discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until a minion is discarded. Right arrow, put that minion into play, engage with you. Place this card in the Infinity Stone discard pile. So does that imply then that if there is no minion put out, you don't put the Space Stone into the discard pile?
That's interesting. I'm pulling it up. Computer's taking a second to load.
And I know this is a letter of the law versus spirit of the law question.
Yeah, I mean the intention is definitely that it's supposed to go in the discard pile, but Space Stone, discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until minion is discarded. So you do that, boop boop boop. Put that into the engage with you. Place this card in the Infinity Stone.
But if you discard and you never get a minion, you haven't paid the cost to the left of the arrow, so you don't trigger anything to the right of the arrow?
I mean, yeah, technically.
Yeah. Okay. Now, part two of this.
Part two. Okay. All right.
If you do not discard a minion, is this card resolved?
I mean, I guess. I mean, it would try to resolve, right? It tries to resolve. It can't do the cost, so no, the ability doesn't resolve, I guess.
Okay. So what that means is, if you have
we win.
The villains win. Finally. We need one. So you get a villain set with no minions. You put it in modular sets with no minions, and then when the Space Stone hits, nothing happens. You deck out the villain, get an acceleration icon, and then the stone stays out. Next turn, the villain activates against you. The Space Stone is in front of him, so it goes off, decks him out again, another acceleration icon. But because a stone didn't resolve, you pull out another Infinity Stone. That one will resolve as normal. And so every turn you get an acceleration icon and a new Infinity Gauntlet. And
I mean, it's a lot of setup, but
I mean, thematically, it does make sense though. You're just speeding up. Oh no, I was thinking it was the Time Stone. It's the Space Stone.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy that we get one.
Yeah, me too. We realize it's unofficial, whatever, but yeah, great. Perfect.
Yeah,
so folks.
Yeah, we should clarify that any ruling that I make is totally unofficial. So
yeah,
probably want to talk to Caleb about this one. Maybe he'd have a better explanation. But I definitely.
No, I don't think we will. I don't think we
need to talk to him. We like it. We're good.
There you go.
So there's a challenge for folks. Play a scenario with the Infinity Gauntlet with no minions in it and see what happens.
Yeah.
Can you beat it? Oh. Yeah, we kind of came across that as we were going through some of the sets, and we're like,
while we're on air, yeah.
Yeah, cost this arrow maybe just shouldn't be here, but yeah. So now, who made the Gauntlet set? Was that Caleb? Was that you?
But pretty much everything in the Mad Titan Shadow Box was Caleb. I don't think I helped with really. So actually, the Mad Titan Shadow Box and the Sinister Motives box were both. I think the Mad Titan Shadow Box was the first box that was fully developed during work from home. Is that right? No, it wouldn't have been fully developed. It would have been toward the tail end. I guess Sinister Motives was the first product that started work from home and ended work from home. Yeah, Mad Titan shifted. There was a point like in the middle of development where we had to shift to that. So, okay. But it was pretty much all him. And when we split to work from home, we could kind of collaborate a lot less than we used to. We still would have video calls and stuff, but it's not the same as sitting beside someone in the office. So we definitely divided the work a little more readily than we had in the past.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah, you're asking your kids for advice because they're the only ones that are right there.
Yeah, exactly. Read this one.
Oh, that's how we got SpiderHam.
That was it. That was it.
Bold choice, by the way, choosing SpiderHam. But
oh yeah. I'm excited for him, and I know that Caleb is really excited for him. I've seen a couple players be like, "Why wasn't it? I don't know, Spider-Man 2099 or Spider-Man Noir?" But I think that there definitely was, anytime we're creating a wave of characters, you want to make sure that the characters on some levels are different enough in playstyle from one another. And as cool as like Spider-Man 2099 is, and as cool as Spider-Man Noir is, and all the other Spider people, like there's a certain point where most of the Spider people are kind of the same in a lot of regards. Some of them have some key differences, like Miles Morales, he's got his Venom blast and he can turn invisible. But like, for instance, when I was designing Ghost Spider, it was kind of challenging to come up with a play style that was still like spidery, but totally different from Spider-Man Peter Parker. And, fortunately, Spider-Man Peter Parker, he was like, I think, the first character we ever created for the game. So his play style is very straightforward. It's very basic in a lot of ways. He's pretty defensive, but that's kind of his most special element. And so, like, I kind of spun Ghost Spider off into being very reactionary and playing with like the interrupts and stuff. But like, to do that multiple times in a row, because I've seen other people, complain, "Oh, we're getting Penny Parker and not one of these other characters instead." But like, we chose SpiderHam and we chose Penny Parker because they are so different compared to all the other Spider people. It's not just sort of a different iteration of Peter Parker. It is actually a character that this one's a cartoon and he can squash and stretch and get flattened and do all this stuff. He's got this whole like spider nonsense where the more danger he's in, the more powerful his cartoon abilities are. Penny Parker, she's got a whole robot, and she's kind of like this whole mech suit thing. So that was like a big reason that we chose both of those characters, because they do have recognition, and that's important, but also because they really are sort of defined in their own way compared to some of the other Spider people that are just not as defined in terms of like unique abilities and whatnot.
Yeah, that makes sense. You guys can always impress me with the ability to make characters feel like the characters while not just feeling like a cookie cutter from some other character, if that makes sense. Like, you do a good job of that. Yeah.
It's always the hope, yeah. A lot of that really comes from Nate French. Like, Nate has said many times that he feels that any character can be like, you could basically make the same version of the same character in 100 different ways. And it's really just about like finding a play style that's fun and that can sort of tell the story of that character. But I think like we definitely could have done, for instance, Spider-Man Noir or Spider-Man 2099 and made them feel different from the other Spider people. But it does get really challenging after a point. And, we just felt like the SpiderHam and Penny Parker were a bit more dynamic in a sense.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to trying out Penny Parker. I did not know anything about that character prior to the movie, and there's not a whole lot. Some of these characters don't have they don't have the 50 years of comics, so it's always impressive to see some of those guys come alive in the game, and you guys use what little they is in the comics for them. So.
Oh yeah, for sure. Thank you.
This wave, I believe we're not getting a scenario pack like a Kang or a Wrecking Crew. Was there a reason we're not getting one of those? Just not enough time, or what was up with that? Can we expect those packs in the future or in other waves?
Definitely see them in the future. Yeah, scenario packs are something that are a lot of fun to design, and I know that the community really likes them. So the way we've done them in the past, it sort of has been like this leapfrog thing where it's like a lot of times these packs will fall sort of in between projects, in between schedules in a way. So like I'll do one, Caleb will do one, and it's when the other person isn't at their most critical, busiest time with like a big wave with the expansion, all the hero packs and stuff. And for whatever reason, I think the way everything just happened, I did Hood, which was the last one. So Caleb would have done, I guess, the one that fell in this wave, and the way things lined up sometimes, it just like it doesn't work out with the schedule. So I believe if I'm remembering correctly, that's essentially the reason we didn't do it. It was just sort of a scheduling thing more than anything else.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think sometimes people forget there's like FFG's got like 3 people working on this game or something. I always picture you guys as just this huge company, and you're really not.
Yeah. For like each game line, it's like two, maybe 3 people if you're lucky. And some games are like 1 person. There's a lot of games at FFG, but each one has really just very, very limited resources.
Yeah, we've had some other folks on the show, like Peter and Zach and these guys that are doing things for all of your game lines.
Yeah, they're very busy.
Well, now FFG's got one less quality game designer there. I got to say, I'm pretty sad that you are off the games and you've moved on. I'm happy for you that you've moved on to things you want to do, but I'm sad for the games that I enjoy that you've worked on. So
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, it's kind of bittersweet. Like I really loved my time at FFG. It was a lot of fun to be able to work on things like Netrunner, like Champion, and to work with people like Caleb and Nate French and Tony Fanchi before I left, and all the other designers, MJ Newman, Jeremy Zwern. But it is nice on some levels to be abroad again, to be able to travel again, and also now if I have an idea that I become passionate about on my own, I have the freedom to sort of do whatever excites me the most. So there are pros and cons, but I do and will miss my time at FFG.
So now that you're not there anymore, you can tell us who you think the most villainous member of the team there was.
Oh man, that's a good. Probably Jeremy Zwern, I think. He's he's like the, I don't know how many 5-time world champion something of so many games, and he's always just in the background brooding and scheming. So got to watch out for Jeremy.
It's like
he plays it exactly right. He plays it cool, plays it quiet, but like in reality, he's always got something that he's got the whole the mathematician numbers like flying on his head at all times, and just figuring out his next plot.
Okay, all right. So he's got some machine he's developed that lets him win at everything in the background.
I think so.
That
yeah.
nobody knows about. Okay.
It can't be skill. You can't be that good at card games. It doesn't make sense.
Well, Michael, it's been great having you on. Do you have anything else you want to say to the community, or people wanted to maybe hear any of your final thoughts on the game or other games? I mean, maybe we just sort of did that, but I don't know if there's more that you wanted to say. And say goodbye to the folks, that kind of thing, or will we see you playing online, coming to conventions?
Yeah, I mean, it was really a dream in a lot of ways to be able to work on Marvel and to be able to interact with so many passionate and excited players, and I'm really going to miss my time, and I've appreciated all the kind words that I've received on different platforms and whatnot, and as much as I'm going to miss working on the game, my position was passed to Tony Fanchi. He's been at FFG, I think, for longer than I have. I think maybe on 6 years at this point. He is a phenomenal designer. I was able to, not really train him because he already knew how to do the job really well. But, there's always that transition of here's a new project. Here's how we do things on this project, so on and so forth. And it was right off the bat. It wasn't really like any work on my end to show him the ropes because he kind of just knew everything. So, and I kind of followed along as he ran play tests on our playtesting forums and whatnot. And, the playtesters immediately liked his work. And I think the game is in really good hands. And to be honest, maybe better hands than they were before. I think Tony is going to bring some really cool, innovative ideas to the game that I would not have thought of. There's already quite a few cards that he's created or that he had created before I left that were just oh, that's really cool. That never even came to mind before. So, I appreciate all the kind words, but I think people should continue to be excited for the game and to look forward to the future because there's a lot of cool stuff coming. I can guarantee it.
Oh, excellent. Well, cool stuff coming. I know that you guys are making things way ahead. Are there still products coming out that has your hand, that you've worked on and designed? Can we expect a few more Michael Boggs things to be released?
A couple more. Yeah, there's still some stuff. I was fortunate to help Caleb with the Mutant Genesis box and some stuff after that. He did the design and development of that, but I helped on some other things, and then there's some other stuff later on that I helped design and develop. So a bit more, I would say, probably for the next 1.5 to 2 years. It's going to be like a sprinkle of stuff that I've worked on.
Oh, cool! So, I'll look for your name in the credits.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Mike, you got a last question here?
No, because you already asked it.
Oh, I did.
Question thief.
Yes, I'm villainous. Well, Mr. Boggs, it has been a pleasure to have you on. Like I said, we're sad that you won't be working on our favorite game anymore, but I wish you all the best, and I know the community does too.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I really appreciate that.
I would love to just chit chat for a while more, but I think we're going to get into things maybe that we can't talk about. So tell me more of what's coming. So.
Yeah. A lot of cool stuff.
Nice. Well, Mike, how do the folks get a hold of us?
Hey, folks, do you have any final words for Michael Boggs? A send-off, perhaps? Email us at criticalencounterspod@gmail.com. We are Critical Encounters on Facebook, and you can find us on YouTube by searching for Critical Encounters Podcast. And on Discord, we are Vardane, Big Foam Loaf, and Wandering Took. If you like our show, tell your friends. If you don't like our show, tell your enemies. Venom, take us out.
Venom Man, friendly symbiote Venom Man, spins a web any size, catches thieves, makes them die. Watch out! Here comes the Venom Man.